Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته ومنتهى علمه وجميع ما شاء وخلق وذرع وبرع عالم الغيب وشهادة الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. أما بعد، فيقول الله تعالى في كتابه: واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, hold to the rope of Allah all together and do not be divided. Hold to the rope of Allah, Jamaa'ah, all together, and do not be divided. The rope of Allah, as we mentioned so many times in this member, according to many of the mufassirin, the commentators on the Quran, is al-Islam. The hubble, the rope of Allah is al-Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse is telling us that we should hold on to Islam together. And you know, sometimes as human beings, when someone gives us an order or some instructions, sometimes we try to use or find logic to do what we want to do, as opposed to doing what was instructed upon us. Because this portion of the verse that we quoted is in fact a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verb that is used is called, the form that is used is called the fi'lul amr. It's a command, it's an imperative verb. And anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands upon us is wajib. It's obligatory. There are categories of actions, and all of our actions fall within one of these categories. Something may be wajib, obligatory. Another synonym for that is fard, meaning that when you do it, it's an obligation. When you do it, you're rewarded for doing it. The sin of not doing it is removed from you. A degree under that is mandub, meaning highly recommended. Speaking technically in layman's terms, if you could do both at the same time, speaking technically in layman's terms, something that is mandub is something that is highly recommended, almost obligatory, but the proof from the Quran and Sunnah doesn't definitively make it an obligation. Meaning if you do it, there's a reward for doing so, doing that action. For not doing that action, there's no punishment for it. And then you have this middle category, which is mubah. It's something that's permissible. It's like neutral. And then you have something that's makruh. Something that's hated or disliked. And I think this category is dangerous because as English speakers, when we hear that something is hated or disliked, our mind doesn't go to the technical meaning of it. Some of us may think that something that's makruh or hated is just maybe the brothers don't like it, or the community is detested. No, but something that's makruh, something that's hated or disliked, it's something that's almost haram. It's just the proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah don't definitively say that it's absolutely haram. In other words, the proof is not there yet. And only Allah and His Messenger can make something halal or haram. So our scholars hesitate by making something obligatory or prohibited if the proof is not absolutely there. But all of the proofs point to its blameworthy characteristic, that you need to stay away from it. That thing is makruh. If you stay away from something that is makruh, there's a reward for you. If you do it, there's no punishment. Then, of course, you have things that are haram, that are prohibited. By staying away from these prohibitions, you are rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By doing these prohibitions, Allah could and very may well punish you in this life or the hereafter for doing that haram act. We should keep this in mind because all of our actions fall into one of these categories. We're not secularists that think, okay, this is religion, so it's hard for me to pray. This right here is not religion, so it don't fall in any of these categories. That's a secularist, un-Islamic way of thinking. That's not even our paradigm. The example I always use is the hadith when the Prophet ﷺ was giving us the different rewards of different forms of sadaqah. And then he mentioned that a man gets reward for sadaqah even by approaching his wife. And the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with all of them, were kind of shocked. They said, do you mean that a person can get rewarded by satisfying his desires? And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, of course. Can't you see that if that same man did that same act in a haram fashion, meaning with somebody that's not his wife or something like that, you can logically understand that there's a punishment attached to that because it's haram. Likewise, if a person does it in a halal or permissible fashion, there's a reward attached to it. See how the Prophet ﷺ is shaping our thinking? So if there's a reward for satisfying the desire with your wife, a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do we get this understanding where this is religious, that's not religious? What's your definition of religion? You mean there's some things that you can do that Allah won't judge you for because it's not religious? Where does this thinking come from? It doesn't come from Islam. Why don't we just mention all that 5 categories of things and all of these things? We began with the verse, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Hold to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether. A command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a command to work with the believers, to unify with the believers, to practice your Islam collectively. This is not an individualistic, selfish deen. It's a communal way of life. Yes, there are aspects of the deen that you do off to yourself, all alone. We understand that. But for the most part, it's a collective, communal way of life. And sometimes we don't like to follow instructions. If I tell you to stand up and walk to the back of this building and stay there, some of us, because that's our nature to be rebellious, we'll try to do everything not to follow the instructions. Some of us are actually like children. Stand up, walk to the back of the building. Some of us will try to crawl to the back of the building just so that we can prove that we are our own person and I ain't listening to him. He says stand up and walk to the back of the building. I ain't going to walk, I'm going to crawl. Because I'm me. Who is he to tell me what to do? This is the way some of us, even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes you have to double down with your instructions. You can't just give a command to do something. You have to give a negative command not to do the opposite. Hold to the rope of Allah altogether. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not be divided. Allah already told you to be unified. But some of you are going to find justifications to be disunited or not to work together with one another. So we're going to reiterate the same thing a different way. Hold to the rope of Allah. Allah could have just said, what tasimu bihablillah. He could have just stopped right there. But the point is, Jamaa'ah, all together. Some of you slow, you don't understand, you're trying to find a way to get out of it, to do your own thing. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and do not be divided. The logic, the mind, sometimes is a dangerous thing. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said in this saying, what this well-known saying is collected in a hadith collection called Ad-Darami. He said, إِنَّهُ لَا إِسْلَامَ إِلَّا بِجَمَاعَةٍ. Some of you that come here to Jumu'ah regularly, last few Khutbah, you always mention that. I'm doing it on purpose. Hold to the Umar ibn al-Khattab, he said, there is no Islam without Jamaa'ah, community. وَلَا جَمَاعَةَ إِلَّا بِإِمَارَةٍ. And there is no community, unity, without leadership. Gotta have structure. Even at work, you have structure. You have a leadership. You don't just go to work and everybody's equal. But a lot of us look at Islam like that. You have Islam, you treat it at a lower level than you do in your professional career. You don't walk into work and say, you know what? I don't like the way this whole thing is set up, this oppressive hierarchy that you have here. Who says you have to be the supervisor and you have to be the manager? And who put you over human resources? You know what? I want to write the checks this week. We should all be equal. Just even thinking that thought, you're like, that's ridiculous. I would never do that. But why do you do that with Islam? And then you complain, Muslims, man, they all messed up, man. They ain't doing nothing right. Look how you think. You expect from the Muslim community that which you don't even expect from your job. Can you imagine say, listen, this is not slavery. I don't have to come to work. Slavery is over. They allegedly abolished slavery in 1865. Ain't that what y'all say? Lincoln freed the slaves. I don't have to go to work. Transplant your mentality that you have with the Islamic community and pick it up and implement it at work. I don't have to be here. Matter of fact, I'm doing you a favor by being here. And show up to work for your paycheck. I know some of you are nitpicky. I don't show up for work for my paycheck. I get direct deposit. Okay, on the day that the money is deposited in your account, when it's not there, complain to your employer why it's not there. And use the same argument that you use amongst the Muslims about why you're not there, why you're not participating, why you're not playing your part. Use that same argument at work and demand your check. Again, Umar ibn al-Khattab said there is no Islam without Jamaa'ah, and there is no Jamaa'ah without leadership, and there is no leadership without obedience. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. The logic. Sometimes when someone's telling you something, especially when someone is wiser than you, even if the person is not wiser than you, but maybe may know more than you in a particular subject. The person don't have to be better than you in everything. When you go to a neighborhood or an area or a city or a state and you're not familiar with it and you get lost and you got no signal on your phone, you can't pull up no GPS or nothing like that, most people ask somebody. You asking a person doesn't imply that that person is better than you or that you're lower than them. You assume that because they're here, maybe they're from here, they know more about how to navigate where I am better than I do. I'm just a visitor here. So you ask, hey, how do you get to the gas station? How do you get here? How do you get there? When someone's telling you information, sometimes we listen. Most time we don't listen. Most time we just waiting for the person to finish talking so we can argue back with them. Or maybe a lot of us, we're not even waiting for that. We just interrupt them. But go up the hierarchy. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to us, it's not just because He's trying to fill some pages of a book. He's not trying to sound deep. He's trying to give us the ibrah. He's trying to give us a lesson. Think about those stories that repeat themselves over and over and over and over again in the Quran. Like the story of Pharaoh, Musa, Bani Israel. Over and over and over and over again. There's lessons in that story for you. The story of Adam, Eve, Iblis, over and over and over again. Not just one time in the Quran, more than once. So you can get a lesson from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Iblis, who was in the company of the angels. And I have to say this because I have to say what I'm about to say, because a lot of us, because we live here, and for whatever reason we have individually, we don't study as much as we should. So many of us, we came from Christianity. So as Muslims, we hear something that sounds kind of similar, so we think the whole story is similar. Iblis, who was a jinn, another form of creation, completely different from angels, was in the company of the angels. You have to understand that's part of your belief system. Because the belief system of some other people is that the devil, Satan, was a fallen angel. He was a rebel angel. That's not our belief system. Iblis was a jinn. What many of us will relate to or equate to a demon or a ghost. Another form of creation that has free will like we do. You have some jinns that are Muslim, you got some jinns that are Christian, you got some jinns that are Jews, you got some jinns that are atheists, just like human beings. A whole completely different form of creation. Iblis was in the company of the angels. And because he was given the honor of accompanying the angels, any order that Allah gave the angels likewise applied to Iblis. Allah commanded the angels to bow down to Adam. Now, in hindsight, you might say, this is Allah's commanding. You with angels. What's wrong with you? Why did you bow down? Why did you humble yourself? That's easy to say in hindsight. How many times have a lot of us, as human beings, have been told to humble ourselves to not another creation, another human being, and we found an excuse or a reason not to do it? We have in our mind some reason not to do it. He's not from my ethnicity. He's younger than me. He's not a he, he's a she. What do I look like this to some woman? Shaitan had his reasons. What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you? That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking Iblis. What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you? When I commanded you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you this. Iblis, he didn't say, oh, I was hating and, I'm kind of jealous. I'm just going to try to do my own thing. He had a logical reason for it. You created me from fire and you created him from dirt. That was his logic. He didn't just say, well, I want to be disobedient. I did it. I didn't feel like doing that. No, he had a whole rationale in his mind why he didn't obey Allah. Why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us this story over and over and over and over again in the Quran? What's the ibrah from that particular verse? There's a lot. I'll just give you one. Allah could have easily said, what prevented you from prostrating? It's already been established that he commanded, because there would have been no prostration had Allah not commanded. Why did Allah mention is amartuka when I commanded you to? Like we said, he had his own logic. These stories, one of the reasons these stories are in the Quran over and over and over again, not just good stories, but evil, bad stories like this one, is so we know what not to be like. How many of us do things that Allah commanded us not to do? And we have a justification for doing it. Why did you eat that meat when I told you over a dozen times in the Quran not to eat that meat? Well, see, here in America, the supermarket, it's only cost $2.99 a pound. Over there at the halal market, it costs how much a pound? Well, it's really hard to find. We have all types of excuses. Look at the logic. We have a whole lot of logic. And Allah don't need any of us. The things that He tells us to stay away from is harming us. It's not harming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tells us to stay away from things to protect us. All of you who have children, you tell your children, don't hang around her, don't hang around him, stay away from that, stay away from this. We were all children once. We know how we thought. Abby, Baba, Daddy, he don't want me to enjoy life. He don't want me to have a good time. This is us as children, the way we think. As parents, we know that we are putting these restrictions on our children to protect them. We don't want them to come into cause any harm. They don't understand that. But as an adult, you understand that. As a parent, you understand that. You don't want any harm to come to your children. If you can understand that as an adult parent, why can't you understand that with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah tells you to stay away from it, not for himself. He tells you to stay away from it because it's for you, to protect you. Have any of you ever done counseling? One of the hardest people to do counseling with is someone who knows himself already. He has all the answers, but he can't get himself out of his problem. See, I know myself. See, the reason why I act this way is because this happened to me. And they know themselves already. If you know yourself already, why can't fix yourself? We have to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts these things in place to protect us from a great harm. Because he only created us to worship him. He tells us to stay away from things that will impede that worship. He tells us to do things that will facilitate that worship and make our life much easier. He knows us better than we know ourselves. And we have to trust him. See, the trust is not there. It's like a lot of our children don't trust us. Our children think we have ulterior motives. We expose them to a lot of things. Sometimes the parents are manipulating each other, and the mother puts something in the ear of the child against the father, so the child don't trust the father, or the father puts something in the ear of the child against the mother, so the child don't trust the mother. And so, as we say nowadays, side-eye, you don't trust that person no more. Why is this person telling me this? It can't be for my own sake, because I know this person, he's up to something. We think Allah had nothing else better to do but just to, and this is the narrative that takes place in a lot of these movies. A lot of times you listen to these monologues when they go off, pondering the creation and why did God put us all there? He was wasting his time. He was doing all this. He tells you that he creates you with these weaknesses, and then we fall into it and he punishes us. This is the type of kufr that is pumped in our hearts. And we start pondering, the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so sometimes we have to monitor and check the logic, the aql, and make sure that it's consistent and it conforms with revelation, the wahy. And we make ourselves submit even if we don't want to submit. Like I used to tell some of my children, you're going to like it whether you like it or not. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والاكرام اقامه الصلاه الله اكبر الله اكبر اشهد ان لا اله الا